Hey, have you ever wondered just how isolating a 2,000-pound double-walled, fully insulated room can be? So Bailey and I bought a StudioBricks. It's essentially a miniature recording studio. And it also comes with some really cool accessories and sound treatment on the inside. I'm gonna show you guys everything there is to know about this today, including some sound tests to show you guys just how isolating one of these booths can actually be. Let's start by talking about the price, because I think that's an important thing to address right out of the gate. For context, these are not inexpensive. You could buy like a 3-year-old used car with 50,000 kilometers on it and have it shipped to you overnight. Or you could buy one of these. I think the prices range from about 7,000 to, I mean, I guess you can go up to infinity because they're totally customizable. You can build them to your specifications. You can build a whole room out of them if you really wanted to. For those of you that don't know, Bailey is a voice actor, and she'll never tell you this, but she has some killer clients under her belt like Dell, AT&T, Belvita, Google, and she needs a space that she can work completely uninterrupted. We had 3 options for soundproofing this space when we were building out our basement. Option number 1, we could build something and turn this whole room into a studio by using building materials from like Home Depot, for instance. The pros, the contractor would have probably done it for us. It's fully customizable, and it would be a fraction of the price, around $4,000. The cons, we'd likely lose the window because windows aren't very soundproof. We couldn't take it with us if we moved, and it would likely be way less effective at blocking out sounds than a StudioBricks. Option number 2 was to just buy a StudioBricks. The pros, it's a fraction of the size, and the smaller footprint means Bailey has room for a desk. It keeps the window, which is an important safety feature for us, and we can move it down the road, although we definitely don't want to ever have to do that. The cons, it's by far the most expensive option. And finally, option 3 was to rent a space somewhere else. The pros, it's customizable. The cons, it's hard to find a quiet space. Renting and giving money to someone else never feels that great. We wouldn't be investing in our own equipment. And also just having a commute, not fun. Let's talk about the buying experience. So we had a fantastic buying experience. We worked with a authorized retailer out of Montreal. His name's Stefan from Class A Music. I'm gonna link his stuff down below. He was so phenomenal to work with that I need to plug his store. If you're gonna buy one here in Canada, I'd really recommend working with him. So we worked with Stefan to come up with a solution that would fit in the space that we needed perfectly. Basically, we settled on a design that was 120 by 180. Yeah, you can see up here, 120 by 180. And then it came down to things like, where do you want the desk? Where do you want the bass traps? Where do you want the ventilation, the cable port, and the door? And we'd settled on this design, and then I think I decided that I wanted the bass traps at the back, just so we had more space up at the front. And then the last thing we did was move the ventilation into the front of the booth. So it's coming out into the room. My thought with that was if we put the ventilation on the side here, it's gonna be pulling air in from against the wall. This will just give us a bit more fresh air from the middle of the room. It just seems like a bit better of an option. The only thing I wish I did different was put the cable port from here over to this side where the ventilation was, because I have to run a cable all the way down this wall here to get out into the main part of the room, which is, it's just like, you're snaking a cable up against a wall. It's really kind of uncomfortable. So ideally the cable port should have been down here. Now you can also put the ventilation under the desk. You can put it at the back of the booth. We opted to put it underneath the desk on this side. And our logic with that was, it's gonna be more on the blind side of the microphone. So if the microphone is here, it's kind of closer to the blind side of the mic. You can put it behind the person, and then the person kind of acts as a baffle between the mic and the ventilator, but this just felt like the best option for us, so that's what we went with. And also pay very close attention to the required ceiling height. So the height of the unit and the required ceiling height are 2 different things. The required ceiling height also incorporates how much you need above the unit to be able to assemble the roof. So we ran into a bit of a snag there. We finally put through our order, and it was time to put down a deposit. The deposit was 50% of the total, which was the product cost, the duties, and the shipping. And I just wanna get this timeline right here, so I'm reading this off the screen. We confirmed the design April 20th. Pretty sure they quoted us 10 to 14 weeks. So that would have put us at the end of June or the end of July to receive our StudioBricks. June 29th, we got an email saying that it was being assembled and tested. So that puts us right in that timeline. And then the next update we got was that it left Valencia, Spain, August 16th. So there was about a month where it was stuck waiting to get on a ship. And That's not really a StudioBricks issue. That's basically just a global shortage of shipment issue. We ended up taking delivery September 7th, so about 2 weeks from Spain to our door here in Canada, and not a huge deal because our basement wasn't finished, so we just had to store it in the garage in the meantime anyways. And so this was like Christmas morning. This giant 53-foot truck rolled up, blocked my neighbors in their driveways. Sorry to my neighbors who were stuck in their driveways for like half an hour. But this was like the best day ever. The truck rolled up and they took these 2 massive packages out, and this was sort of the first glimpse at how big these boxes are. Like, they show up on skids. They are not small, they are massive, and they're gonna take up a lot of space. This is me not nervous at all. I'm not awkwardly pacing, completely nervous and excited about this shipment. Now this is me just taking a look at both of the boxes for a few things. I'm checking to make sure that they're not damaged. I'm checking to make sure that the shipping labels on both of them say my name and that they're 1 of 2 and 2 of 2. Both have my address and my shipping information, etc. Just basically making sure that the units I'm receiving are in fact intended for me and there wasn't any sort of mix up. And once these were put in my garage, they basically sat here for about a month while we finished up our basement.
Pretty ready.
And once Bailey's office was complete, it was time to begin the assembly process. And this is a crazy amount of work. If you have 3 or 4 people who can help you move the parts from the boxes to sort of a staging area where you're gonna be building the unit, that'll be a ton of help. I was moving most of these pieces myself because Bailey was tending to our little guy. Some of the pieces, some of the bricks they've gotta be like 140 pounds. Like, they were so heavy, and some of them there's just nothing to grab. It's just like a rectangle, so you're kind of like trying to squeeze this 3-inch slab. It was heavy. We were going down 1 flight of stairs. It was like just a crazy amount of work. I'm wearing slippers doing this whole thing, which was not great. So this first row you see me putting in here is the only piece that has hardware to connect the sections. So basically you have these little hex screws that kind of pop into these holes, and then it pulls the whole frame together. So you basically make this giant frame, and that's what holds the entire thing. Now there's a piece just like this up on the top, and that's where we got into some issues, so I'll show you that in just a minute. So you basically just go clockwise around this unit and assemble the whole A layer, and then you put in the flooring, and then you can start assembling the B layer, and these simply just snap together. There's some pieces that kind of go down the corners, but aside from that, it really just sits together. It's quite impressive. They're basically just giant Legos. Wow, that's crazy. There we go.
There you go.
Down, and then this bottom should just kick in. Yeah. Wow. And a massive shout out to my parents who came to help us get the door in place. The door was definitely the hardest piece. I think the door must have been like close to 250 pounds. It was significantly heavy, and again, there's nothing to grab. It's like this slippery metal frame. There's nowhere to hold, so my dad and I kind of shuffled it in there. Without my parents, there's absolutely no way that I could have got that in place by myself, so huge shout out to my parents for coming to help me. Yeah, really appreciate it. Now this is where we ran into a snag. So just like the bottom, we had one of those rings that went all the way around, and then it basically it's like a cap that you put on the top, and it kind of pulls the whole frame together. That's great, and then you slide in a roof over top, and the roof drops into place. So it kind of slides over this rail and then seats on it like that. But the total height that you need to be able to get that roof in place, because the roof's actually like about 3 inches thick, and then it drops in like that. To get that in there, we actually didn't have enough clearance on the ceiling. So what we had to do was assemble half of that ring, slide the roof up and into place, and then build the front piece of the ring by pushing the roof up with one arm and assembling the ring. It was extremely tedious. My parents helped me with that as well, so that was, yeah, huge thanks to them. That's why I say I don't really want to have to ever move this thing, because you actually have to take it apart in the right order to be able to get it to fit out of the room that it's in. So once it was assembled, we had a lot of fun just jumping in and out and listening to how isolating this booth actually is. But let's go ahead and jump in. So we've got the VO edition, which stands for voiceover. As we go in, you can see we've got some bass traps. We've got the microphone on a boom, and we have the iPad and a laptop there for Pro Tools as well as scripts. And the VO Edition comes with this little table here, as well as this copy stand, which is actually like a translucent copy stand, which we just used to hold up this iPad, and then this mic arm here. Like, they spared no expense with the quality of the equipment in here. It's like kind of overkill in my opinion, but it does the trick, and it, you know, you're paying for a premium product, so it's nice that they don't cheap out on that stuff. And down below we have an absolute nightmare of cables. I've been promising Bailey that I was going to organize that for her and help her out with that, because I'm a bit nuts about cable and I hate leaving it like that, but we want to make sure that we got the setup right first, and then we can tackle organizing the cables. On the left side here we've got a vent, which is really important in a booth like this, because if you close that door and you sit in here all day, you could die. So it's important that that's constantly pulling fresh air in, and then it vents it out through the top, kind of just through this passive vent on the top here that just kind of lets air float out the top. Now for all the gear nerds out there, Bailey has a M1 MacBook Pro using an Apollo Solo rather, interface. She's got her AKG headphones, which if you've ever watched any of her music videos, she's been using these for years. An iPad which runs in sidecar mode, so she puts Pro Tools down there and she puts her scripts up here. And then she has her AKG P220 microphone, which she's used for probably 10 years now. She's really getting her mileage out of this microphone. And one thing I will say about this desk is at like table height. So it really works best if you pull up a chair, but it's so thin that if you pull up a chair, there's like nowhere for your knees to go. So I really wish that they'd put this at counter height instead. It's really not ergonomic. Like if I'm standing, it's hard for me to even reach that screen. It's like to see it, it's like blocked behind this. It's just not very ergonomic at all. So Bailey's put on her Christmas list to have like a clip-on thing that comes up that holds up a keyboard higher so that she won't, you know, destroy her back while she's trying to edit her files. It's very strange that that's like that. I really wish it was higher. That's sort of my one gripe, and we could move it up. It's just like you'd have to take out some more acoustic treatment and re-drill some holes into the, you know, the side, and I don't know if I feel too great about that. As for the acoustic treatment, it's this really cool like recycled, I think they call it like the Eco line, and they're basically just like little sponge kind of tiles. And then these come very thick. Like these are, I can stick my whole hand in there. Like they're quite deep. They go maybe about 8 inches back. And those are held to the wall using Velcro and hot glue. So they say negative 45 decibels for the double layer and negative 47 decibels for the triple layer. Let me show you just how isolating this negative 45 can be. Let's do the most scientific test ever. So right now you're listening to the audio from my ZV-1 camera, and I'm gonna play some music using my Bose speaker, and then I'll take you inside so you can hear how much quieter it is in there versus out here in the office space. Now let's do that same test, but backwards. We're gonna put the Bose speaker here inside of the booth, and I'm gonna press play from out here so you can hear how loud it is. And let's go ahead and close this door here. I actually noticed something when I was in the booth, and that's that I could hear sound coming from one spot. It was this little hole down here. Now, full disclosure, I assembled this booth incorrectly. In my haste, I had to get cables run through there, and then we had to move the whole booth while my parents were here, and we had to accomplish this really quickly because they needed to leave, and there was no way I could slide the whole booth by myself once they left. So I ran the cables through, and I forgot to put on the little door cover that goes over top of this. Now, when you're soundproofing a space, you have to remember it's a lot like a fish tank. If there's even the smallest little hole, all of the water will get out and the fish will die. In this case, nobody dies, but the sound may get out. And I did notice a little bit of sound coming through there. So just know that if this was done properly, it'd be that much more soundproof, but it's not gonna be something that will really disturb our recording. So not really a big deal for us. So overall, I have to say we are super happy with the StudioBricks. The quality of the parts that they use is, I've never purchased something with that much quality before, I think. Like even down to like the boom arm and the copy stand, like they're really like German engineered premium boom arms that are so overkill. Like I've got a cheap little like $100 boom arm here and it holds this microphone fine, you know what I mean? But it's such a quality product that it's like, it just steps up everything to that next level. And it's definitely something that we really appreciate, like the attention to detail, even things like they send you with a little bottle of the exterior paint color that you chose, just little things like that. It's like such high quality. They've really paid attention to making sure you get the right experience when you buy the product, so definitely appreciate that. And overall, this is just a massive step up for Bailey's quality of life. Before at our old house, she was literally working in a blanket fort, and like if I moved like this while I'm working, she would have a ruined take because my chair would squeak and it would go like right through the floor. So this is just such a step up in her quality of life, and now she can really meet the needs of her clients that they're expecting pro audio every time, no issues, and she can deliver that with that much extra level of confidence.